Hello and welcome to the Chicago Tribune's Bear Download Casual Edition. We're back sitting down for you. I'm Rich Campbell, this is Dan Wiederer. We're at Hallis Hall on Friday, the first day of the Bears' three-day rookie camp. Dan, what were some of your first impressions from really our first Bears practice that we've seen in full?
Yeah, obviously a beautiful early December day out in Chicago here, so the Bears moved their practice inside of the Payton Center, which was obviously the first twist on things. But, you know, to see the tempo that Mark Trestman establishes with these guys and the demands that he has, there's a message here. Whether you're a draft pick, whether you're an undrafted free agency, whether you're here on a tryout, that there's a standard that needs to be met with the tempo here. And Mark Trestman even sent one group off the field because not all 11 guys were moving with the tempo that he wanted. So there's an accountability here, and you get the sense that over these 3 days here, that there's going to be a lot of opportunity for these guys to show themselves. But the first and foremost thing is not only knowing your assignments, but playing at a fast pace and flying around so that you can catch the attention of the coaches.
Right. Afterwards, Mark Trestman told us that one of the main priorities today was to just watch these guys play to the whistle and see how they moved and their football instincts and the effort, and seemed generally pretty happy with that. Obviously, these are initial evaluations. They'll go back and watch the tape. We got a chance to see a couple of interesting prospects that we've had an eye on for the last week, one of them being sixth-round punter Pat O'Donnell.
Right, and a lot of people will scratch their heads over time at draft picks used on punters, but Pat O'Donnell showed today why the Bears feel he can be their starter in September when they open the season against the Bills. Over and over again, he was putting the ball off the roof of the Payton Center, and you could hear leather against wood over and over. And there's that obvious leg strength that Phil Emery talked about last weekend after drafting O'Donnell. And there's a sense that this kid is an athlete, and he's got a chance to do some things. Now, we'll see what happens when he goes outdoors. Obviously, a little different punting in South Florida than it is in the windy conditions of Florida. There's a lot for this kid to learn. But on day one, certainly caught our eye with some of those shots off the roof.
Right, and also all eyes on Jordan Lynch, the undrafted former Heisman Trophy winner quarterback from Northern Illinois, converted to running back. And he said that the first day just went fine. I mean, it's hard to draw conclusions after these practices, but Mark Trestman said he didn't look out of place, and I think that's a really important first step for a guy who's learning a new position.
And I thought that was most notable, is that they felt that he took to it. And I think Mark Trestman also said that he's hungry for information. He wants to know what's happening tomorrow, what happened yesterday. He really wants to absorb a lot of this and show his intelligence, and certainly that will help him going forward.
Yeah, and for our purposes, a little bit harder to glean too much on the first three draft picks the Bears had. Kyle Fuller, the cornerback, and the two defensive tackles, Ego Ferguson and Will Sutton. There are no pads at this point. These guys are running 11-on-11s in shells, really. But everybody seems to at least feel good about having these defensive players here and what they can accomplish on that side of the ball. And to that end, we heard this afternoon from defensive coordinator Mel Tucker. It's the first time he has spoken to us since right around Christmas, before the Packers loss to end the season. So much ground to cover with Mel. I mean, in the meantime, they retained him as defensive coordinator. They had a free agency splurge on defensive ends. And now they used 4 of their first 5 draft picks on defensive players. What were some of your impressions of what Mel had to say?
And they brought in 3 new defensive assistants as well. So there's been a total overturn here. And I think the most interesting thing here for Mel Tucker is he came in his first year as coordinator and inherited a defense that had proven success with a lot of guys who were returning. And so he was very hesitant in year one to put in overhaul the system, to put his fingerprints all over this thing. There was a system that worked here, and so he stuck with that. And you get the sense now that there's been an overturn of the roster, that there's new players to work with, there's new coaches to work with, that Mel Tucker has a chance now to put his identity into this defense a little more. And there's an obvious excitement for him, I think, in doing that. They're going to do a lot of different things with their fronts. They're going to mix up coverages. They're going to try to be more unpredictable. But certainly Mel Tucker, sold this vision to both Mark Trestman and Phil Emery, and feels very good about having the chance to install it now with real players.
Right, and that was some of the most interesting stuff that I took out of there was Mel's recollection of what those few weeks were like after the season when Mark Trestman was determining whether he would be back. And if you're Mel in that situation, he indicated this to us, he was able to say, look, I've got some things that I want to do with this defense based on my experience. I know these things have worked in the past. We need better players, and we need another round to get this thing going again.
Fit of players.
Correct. Right. And Mel made the point in his comments to us that now he's working with a bunch of guys who want to be here. You have Jared Allen, who chose the Bears. Lamar Houston chose the Bears. You've got coaches who are more experienced on that side of the ball, and Paul Pasqualoni and Reggie Herring. You've got some draft picks now that are excited to be a part of this. This is not Mel Tucker replacing Lovie Smith anymore and having to win over Lovie's guys necessarily. Obviously, there's still an overlap there, but this is now more Mel's defense, and you can easily see why he'd be excited about that.
Certainly, and he's not going to give away any secrets here in May, and we're going to get to see more of it as OTAs
Right.
and minicamp hit, and that's going to be exciting for us to finally start watching football on the field after chasing all the free agency and draft stuff, and now actually get back out there with helmets on and pads on and see what these guys can do.
You're ready to run through a wall.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. We'll have full coverage of rookie camp on Saturday and Sunday here from House. Also, stay tuned to ChicagoTribune.com for that. For Dan Wiederer, I'm Rich Campbell, and we'll see you next time.